Okay, what's up, y'all? Shit will work. Um, so this is another trade I did today. Um, this is a trade I did today. Thursday, I had no funds settled, so I couldn't trade. And I was actually glad I couldn't trade because, bitch, there was no opportunities, and I am glad that I couldn't trade. Um, and I wanted to work out. When it's leg day, I want to put in like all the time I can on leg day because man, leg day is serious. I don't want to be one of those guys. Um, I don't want to be those guys who's skinny in the legs and big in the upper body. Never been like that. Don't want to be that. But pre-market, I've seen multiple stocks moving. Um, I seen another stock. I forgot the name of it. Um, forgot the name of the stock, but it was moving, and it's just the volume. The volume in the chart looked good. MITQ. It looked good, but like as you can see here, um, it wasn't moving. Um, as you can see here, it wasn't moving. Pre-market saw it around here, just didn't like the movement. I didn't like the way it looked. Yeah, it spiked. What from 30 cents? Still didn't like it. Um, but then this stock VLON came on, and this really wasn't a good trade neither. But I got a good one pre-market. Um, um, sorry, my neighbors are fighting outside again. They fight practically every day. I told that nigga to leave that bitch, but that nigga's stupid his damn self. Told him to get his shit together and leave her because she's just poisonous. And all he wants to do is keep going back to her. So if you hear any yelling or a lot of noise, I apologize in advance. But this is how it is, man. Until I get wealthy enough to live in a penthouse where I ain't gotta deal with shit like this, I gotta stay focused. But yeah. So this stock met my criteria. Well, let me start off with going with the yearly chart. I like the way it was moving pre-market, and it looked like it was moving like a low float. So I quickly looked at it. Um, it had some news. It was talking about how they announced a review of their strategy, strategic um, alternatives. And I'm like, what the fuck they talking about that? Like, what the fuck they mean by that? Excuse me. Excuse me. But when I looked at their float, it was 3.2 million to 4.2 million. And remember, none of these numbers are accurate. So then I looked at the SEC filings. They announced news that day. Um, I already had it open. Um, they announced news that day about it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So it's financial advisors. So basically I was like confused about what it meant, but I had to think about it for a little bit and do my look at the yearly chart. And then when I saw this big dump, I was like, oh, I get it. I know what the fuck you motherfuckers are doing. So this stock was just like choppy all year. It had this big uptrend, and then it was just choppy from here, up to a good range, and then it had this big gap down from like the 770s high to $5. So it lost damn near almost $3 per share, and then it had this big dump right here. And let me go to a 3 month chart so you can see closer. It had this big dump, fade, and now it's spiking. And the reason why it's spiking, and I put all the pieces together, and they're trying to, they announced that they're pretty much fucking, they got a plan to do better for their stock, aka bullshit. Um, because y'all know what the fuck y'all did here. Y'all dumped all the shares, had a gap down, and then kept dumping, and then it kept dumping on this fade. And now they're saying, hey, we got a way to fix our company. When y'all know y'all the ones who fucked it up. So I was like, okay, I don't like the news because it sounds like it's a whole bunch of bullshit. Um, it's a bunch of bullshit, and one second, why is it showing me this? Y'all hear that? Somebody gonna end up calling police on their ass. Why is it showing me this? Why is it not letting me move? Let me try changing the ticker symbol. And let's see. Let me go back and will it give me what I'm looking for? Here we go. All right, so I was like, basically bullshit. Y'all know what y'all did, and now y'all trying to pump the stock back up. So then it started pumping, and I'm looking at the flow. I'm looking at the way the stock is, and one thing I'm reminding myself that they dumped shares, and I don't see any. I didn't see any 424Bs um, that I remember, but I think I seen one. Um, I gotta go back and look. Yeah, so I've seen this effect 424B. Um, and then there was a recent 10 something right here. There was a recent 10K, and I remember doing my research on something. I just don't remember. So right here it said that they had 6 million shares outstanding as of February 11th. And then when I looked at the yearly chart, which I gotta do this shit again, uh, February 11th, um, they dumped a whole bunch of shares and kept fading. So I had to tell myself, okay, you think it's a I gotta learn how to use this shit. So you think it's a 6 million outstanding, but it's really not. It's higher than that. It's probably all these numbers probably changed, and then because they dumped so many, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, it's really not a low flow, but it's moving like a low flow. Um, and I played it like a low flow. So my rules are, if it's under 5 million, I'm gonna double. I can increase my 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 amount used to only up to double, and I don't want to always go to double, and because that increases my risk by double as well. But I can, and I'm allowed to get into pre-market. So and I met those requirements, although the flow most likely wasn't um, what I thought it would have been. Excuse me. Uh, excuse me. Excuse me. Um, So fuck you. Give me 1 second, man. Fucking bullshit. This is important to me right now. I've been reading articles from Timothy Sykes, and there's this one article I was trying to fucking read, and I'm not losing it, no matter what. Right here, found it. So Timothy Sykes articles have been really good for me, and there's certain articles I just want to read. Whenever a topic catches my attention or I feel like I need to learn, I go and touch those articles. And then when I don't feel like there's any particular article I want to read, I just read whatever. And there's one article I've been trying to read because I think it's very valuable, and I keep forgetting to finish it. And I have so many articles to read, I don't know which one's which. So I didn't want to lose it. And it got mixed up somehow. But so yeah, the float really wasn't under 5, but because it said it and it was moving pretty nicely, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it. So originally, I got in nowhere near the $10,000 mark, which is the double from 5,000. But originally, I got in with what? Um, I forgot what, 3,500 at what price? Yeah. So my average was when I added these two shares, my average was $2.06. 2.06 times 3,500. It was $7,200. Um, and I got in here. I knew every 10 cents I was up. That's $350. My goal is to hit 5 to 10% in this trade, which is 20%. 20%, 10% of $2.07 is like, um, I think 20 cents, 20.007 or some shit like that. But it was roughly 20 cents. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I'm aiming for 20 cents, 10 to 20 cents. I'm aiming for 5 to 10%. So when the stock started spiking, it started consolidating. I was down on my trade. Um, and sometimes when it's a low flow, it's like I lose my mind and forget what where my risk is. So it started consolidating, um, and the lowest point was 190, and it was just consolidating. I had to ask myself after I got into the trade, where's my risk? And I'm like, okay, my risk will be this lowest point or VWAP. I hope they're not shooting out there. I want one of these bullets to fly through this window. Um, uh, um, so what happened after here? Um, I lost my train of thought. Wait, okay, so I didn't think this through when I entered, and really my original before I entered, I was trying to get in the 190s, but it just went without me, and I chased it honestly, and excuse me, excuse me. Um, then it gave me that opportunity I was looking for in the 190s, 195 actually, and I was gonna add right here, but I didn't. I just said fuck it. I'm already risking too much than more than I wanted to. Um, I fuck, I'm losing my train of thought right now. Um, so I'm just like, bro, I'm in at 3,500 shares. If it hits this point, I'm risking $700, bro. I'm in at $2.07. If it drops 20 cents, which will be um, what um, $1.87, which is under this point right here, I'm risking $700. That was not part of my plan. I did not want to risk that much, and that's why I wanted to get in the mid 190s. But I chased it because if I got in like even if I got in at 198, which I didn't want to, I would have been risking the most $400, and even that I didn't want to risk. Um, uh, Not even $400, 350, but even less than 350. But I didn't even want to risk that. Um, and I really didn't think about my risk nor my entry here. Uh, so after I got in, it started. After a while, it started spiking little by little. So I saw this spike a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is like whatever. It's been doing this whole time. Then it did this spike right here, and it broke the high of $2.09. So I'm like, okay, it has to break this high because these two highs were the same, $2.09. I'm like, okay, this shit got to break $2.09. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, it broke $2.09, hit 17, but it pulled back and ended. Um, it closed at 13, and I'm like, okay, is it gonna keep pushing? And then it opened up at 2013, went to a low of 10, and I started like feeling like it's not gonna give me what I want, and then it just spiked. And next thing you knew, I was up $700 to $800, and I was like, okay, my target goal was 20 cents, which is $2.27. I was aiming for $2.27, so that's 17 cent, $2.17 to $2.27, and I was aiming for that, and I got it. But then I'm like, the way this just spiked just now, I think it could keep going higher. So let me give it a little bit more time. And I gave it a little bit more time, and I reached $800. And I'm like, okay, I got the right mindset. I think it's gonna keep going. And then it pulled back here, started consolidating, pulling back. Then it spiked and went even higher. So this is $2.30, and then it went to $2.31. And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, it should be pushing, and it didn't push. And I was like, oh shit! And then it dropped back a decent amount, a good 10 cent, or actually 20 cents. Really, I would say, yeah, 10 cent. It dropped down 10 cent. And I'm like, shit. I went from up 800 to up like 500, and I'm like, shit. What I do? And I was like, bro, you don't know where this is gonna go. Just take the gains right here and get out and walk away. I was like, yes, that's part of my plan to get out. My whole plan was to get out into a spike pre-market. But I'm like, okay, I have two options here. I can get out in a spike pre-market, which technically I'm there, or I can wait for market open. And I'm like, okay, I got a good 45 minutes to market open. Let's see what this is gonna do. And um, I'm like, okay, let me just go with my second choice. Maybe it was spike pre-market. Hopefully it doesn't pull back all the way back down to my entry point. And that's exactly what it did. I went from 600 to 400 to 700. 700 to 800 to 900 to 1000 to 2000 to 3000 to 4000 to 5000 to 6000 to 7000 to 8000 to 9000 to 10000 to 12000 to 13000 to 14000 to 15000 to 16000 to 17000 to 18000 to 19000 to 19100 to 19200 to 19300 to 19400 to 19500 to 19600 to 19700 to 19800 to 19900 to 10000 to 10100 to 10200 to 10300 to 10400 to 10500 to 10600 to 10700 to 10800 to 10900 to 11000 to 11100 to 11200 to 11300 to 11400 to 11500 to 11600 to 11700 to 11800 to 11900 to 12000 to 12100 to 12200 to 12300 to 12400 to 12500 to 12600 to 12700 to 12800 to 12900 to 13000 to 13100 300 to 200 to 100 to break even. Then I was down on my trade, and I was like, what the fuck did I just do? I just gave back my entire gains, and this is looking like it's gonna fail. And I said, man, I'm about to take a $700 loss. But now it's $900 loss because at this point I added $1,000 to 1,000 shares to my trade, and I was like, what the fuck did I just do? And I was really thinking about doubling down, but I'm glad I didn't. Um, and then it had this drop, and I was down on my trade. I'm like, bro, if you don't get out now, you're gonna be taking this $1,000 plus loss. And I just froze, and I was like, I gotta get out, bro. I gotta get out. And something in the back of my mind is like, okay, let's think this through. Has it reached your point where market open? I'm like, no. I said, and I spoke to myself. I'm like, okay, at 9 o'clock, that's when the volume starts to pick up. So you're currently right here. I was like, I'm currently 9 minutes away from 9 o'clock, 39 minutes away from market open. Give it some time to see what it's gonna do. If it panics right here and it hits your risk, then just get out. But it hasn't hit your risk. It hasn't hit your risk, and you're still in the game. Um, and then the factor that I only got one shot at this made me nervous. So I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do here? And as I was watching, the next minute just spiked right back up. And I said, okay, it's spiking right back up. Then the next minute it spiked up again. I was like, okay, it's one of those trades again where when it dumps and spikes right back up, it's being held up and buyers are winning and buyers are pushing it back up. So I said, okay, that's a good sign. It got dumped and then I was being pushed back up. Let's see what it does. And the minutes just kept rolling, and at this point I was up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, let me give it some time. And I kept getting up a little bit and pulling back, and then next thing you know, 9 o'clock rolls around, and it's looking good for me just a little bit, and then 9:15, boom, it spikes again, and it breaks this high of 230, and I was like, oh shit, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, I'm up over $800, and I'm like, it's spiking a little bit, perking up a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm up $1,000. Let's see what it's gonna do. And at this point, I'm like, bro, yeah, let's give it time, but let's get the fuck out. You fuck this trade up. Let's get out. But I'm like, I can get out for $1,000 gain, which is great. That's already hit my target goal for the second time. I should get the fuck out. And I was like, you know what? It's less than 15 minutes left to less than 10 minutes left to market open. This could just fucking. This is consolidating here. This shit could just fucking um excuse me. Excuse me. Just dump. It could just fucking dump here. But it could just fucking dump here. It could just dump here, and I'm back to where I started. And I said, you know what, the smartest thing to do is to hit one of those limit orders, um and have it at a certain level, like at 17 or 20, and then uh you know have it on a stop limit order, but then and 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 actually submit it, and then edit the order where it's like you have it on a limit order ready to execute at on a spike. And I kept thinking to do that, but I'm like, no, I don't want it to just drop real quick and it executes and then perks up. I didn't want to do that in this situation because I was already sized in too big, and it would be the perfect situation that I was sized in too big. I was uncomfortable, yada 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 yada. But um, I'm just like, okay, I gotta think this through. So let's give this a little bit more time, and I'm just gonna have to be disciplined to hit the order. And then it started spiking little by little, broke this point of $2.38, and it went into the 40s, and then it went into the 50s. It was struggling around the 50s a little bit, but by that time the market opened, and it dropped, market open, and it pushed back up. And I really wasn't comfortable with this trade at that point. At this point, it just kept doing these choppiness and these wicks. Um, and then I kept thinking about the yearly chart, um, as you see before, where it was just like a horrible yearly chart, and it had that big um, gap and dump. So I was like, you know what? The news pushed it up, although it's shitty news. The yearly chart is horrible. I don't want to be in this for too long. So I just was like, man, I'm up damn near $2,000. I just clicked my order to get out at 250, 248, and I got out. And I was trying to get out over $2,000, but I didn't get it, and I'm cool with that. I didn't even care to calculate how much I could have made if I waited just a little bit longer. I normally do that, but I didn't care, and I got out for an $1,800 gain and $1,839 gain, and I was really happy with that. I posted on Instagram, um, and then I just watched it for the rest of the day. I watched it spike a little bit more, pull back, then spike again up to the highs, and then from there it was just like downhill. Um, that shit just dumped. I honestly thought it would give a 945 or 10 dip and rip, and here it was really. 10 o'clock came around. It dropped even more past this point after 10 o'clock, but then it rebounded real quick and then spiked or bounced, but it couldn't break this view up first in this area too convincingly. I mean, if you got in, you would have made what? If you got lucky, you would have made 25 cents per share, or 30 cents per share if you got lucky. But it never did anything that was convincing. And if I didn't trade this here, I probably would have traded here, where I probably would have gotten in here, most likely here at 945, um, or here, and then, or if I got lucky, if I was more like patient, I would have probably gotten here, probably gotten faked out. But if I didn't, I would have been waiting for this to go up even higher, but it didn't. And once you see that, you need to get out, and I'm waiting for the day, and I'm watching right now, and I'm watching these stocks to see how they perform, and these 945s perform, these 945 dipping rates perform before I actually trade it, because I'm not disciplined enough to trade it at these times, and I like going in pre-market at times, um, because I know they're gonna give me at least two pushes, and if it's a low float, they're gonna give me a push in pre-market. But it didn't push any higher, and people were just like, "Fuck that shit," and they dumped, and then they try to rebound and give it a second chance, and it just faded. And all through the rest of this day, I didn't like it. Even when it dropped here to the low of 189, 186, and bounced up to 225, I still didn't like it. The volatility was not good enough for me. It went up to 243, but it was choppy the whole entire way, and it never really recovered from this um, dump. I mean, yeah, it went up to 246, which is about like a 30 cents difference from the highs at 267, almost 30 cents difference, but still, it was choppy as hell and had these big drops. Drops, big drops right here, big drops. And if I see too many of those, I'm not fucking with it. Even if I see one or two, it makes me uncomfortable. Like when I first traded it and it had that big drop right here, it really made me uncomfortable. And I'm shocked that I didn't get out right here. Um, when I got back to all my gains that I made. But I guess the only reason why I stayed was because market was about to open in less than 10 minutes. But I'm really happy that I traded this and I performed well and all. But yo, like I gotta be more disciplined. I gotta follow my rules better, and I have to be smarter. But now think, and I put on my Instagram that I thank God for this trade. But I thank God for this trade. But I also said this life is temporary. All this stuff is temporary, and I can't make it to heaven without God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. And I was as I'm trading this, I was listening to Billy Graham, um, his video right here, um, technology, faith, and human shortcomings. And I was also listening to this one right here, sex, power, riches, and materialism. And it was just talking something similar to this trade. Because I'm a believer in God and Christ, and it just as it was talking how money has these materialistic things in life have no value. And Solomon had all the great wisdom and everything in life that he needed or wanted, but it meant nothing. It was straight vanity. And trading and God really don't go together well because you can't just pray that the stock is going to go up. That doesn't work. I have faith that God gives me the discipline and teaches me and open doors for me so that I can keep growing, but I don't pray to Him to make the stock go up because that's like a hold and hope situation, and that's not a strategy. But he spoke about um, just like uh, um, being 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 like not for this world, being for God, living for God, and not for this world, and made me look at my trades and my performance and the money, and I'm like, I really don't care too much about the money. Um, I'm really focused on the performance, the mindset, mainly the thoughts in my mind. I value how I regulate the thoughts in my mind more than my performance, more than the trade itself. When I'm battling in my mind and I'm getting regulating it very well, that means more to me than anything. And yes, I made this trade, but excuse me. Yes, I made this trade and I made some money, but in the end, it means nothing to me. Um, I'm about to be over the PDT in a little bit, but I don't care right now. I care about uh, my growth. I care about my future, and now I really want to care about helping other people more than this money. So I thank God for the opportunity for me to change my life, and I'm grateful that Sykes is in my life to help me, and that I have the wisdom and the will and the maturity to take on this challenge to grow, and that'll be all.